Hi there, it's Brodie McLeod again, coming to you from my ward room at Signet Hospital, Custokes, Nash Ward, which is a psychiatric intensive care ward. I saw a very inspirational video this morning by William, and it was talking about mental health and the ways that you can manage that. I've been institutionalized, and I've got a big interest in tackling and sort of neutralizing institutional abuse where it takes place. I did this research this morning, which initially Gem and I couldn't it wouldn't agree to it, but I'll just read you what that says. So, healing from the unseen, the mental health impact of institutional abuse, when the very same systems meant to protect us become the perpetrators of harm. The psychological wound is profound. This is institutional abuse, and from a clinical treatment perspective, it leaves a unique fingerprint on the psyche known as a complex PTSD or CPTSD. Unlike single event trauma, institutional abuse, which can include neglect, sexual violence, and deprivation of basic needs, is chronic and inescapable. The visceral trauma here isn't just a memory, it's a psychological rewiring of the nervous system. The clinical reality, things like betrayal trauma, when the abuse comes from caregivers or authority figures, it shatters the ability to trust. Survivors often struggle with hypervigilance, constantly scanning for threats in a safe environment. You get frozen nervous system. Survivors of prolonged starvation and restriction often oscillate between emotional numbness, disassociation, and extreme panic. The body remains stuck in survival mode long after the threat has passed. You also suffer an erosion, typically of identity, so systemic humiliation targets self-worth. In therapy, we often see this manifest as toxic shame, the internalized belief that one is fundamentally broken or deserving of bad things. By the numbers, research indicates that adults who experience childhood institutional abuse or neglect have a 64% higher likelihood of experiencing poor mental health later in life. Studies show that survivors of institutional settings have significantly higher rates of CPTSD compared to the general population, often requiring specialised long-term trauma-informed care. The path to recovery, healing is possible. Treatment often moves from talking to stabilising using modalities like EMDR and somatic experiencing to help the body learn that it is finally safe. You're not alone. Support is available. I put this onto Instagram, but it didn't fit all of these. So if you're in the UK, there's something called the National Association for People Abused in Childhood. You can phone them up, or you can go on their website. They're called NAPAC. You can phone them on 0808 801 0331. And there's a Survivors Trust, which is an umbrella agency for rape and sexual abuse services, which is 0808 801 0818. The survivorstrust.org is their website. Samaritans, you've probably heard of. They do great work. I've done a lot of fundraising for them in my 20s when I was working for GoGen. You can call them on 116 123 any time of day or night, and they will talk to you about your emotions and try and help you recover. And there's another organisation which is from the United States, which you just never know how far the scope of these videos will go. So I will let you know. You can dial 800-656-HOPE, which is a sort of terrible marketing thing that they do, the old Yanks. But 1 in 6, a support for men who've had unwanted or abusive sexual experiences, and it's got a bunch of hashtags. I want to talk. This was the post, right? That I've shared on Instagram, but the description got kind of a little bit waylaid, so it's only got one organisation. So I just want to make sure I've got all the organisations that it listed for people to get help if they want to. I used the image of a piggy bank looking very sad, surrounded by coins. One might infer that all the coins should be put inside the piggy bank, and not be left surrounding it. There's another thing which is just really bizarre, and if you've got delusional disorder like me, you might find is the sort of thing that really triggers you. I'm diagnosed with delusional disorder, and one thing I've noticed about Nash Ward since I've been here is the clocks. All of the clocks that tell the time are on walls sort of behind CCTV cameras, or so far away from CCTV camera that you wouldn't be able to make out the time. I thought they only had like 3 when I first started writing this, but then I saw another one, and another one, and another one, and they were all in exactly the same position. So what I wrote on Facebook was that there's one digital clock on the exit to the main reception entrance of Nash Ward, Signet Custok. If you've ever been to the building, it's a very large old building with a big reception area. You can turn left to go into Nash Ward, or right to go into Haywood Ward, where I was for about a year before I was moved to a different ward, and this one's complicated. Anyway, there's another one above the entrance to the garden, and another one in the hallway leading to the games room, to the quiet lounge. The clocks, this is not going to divulge the position of the closed circuit television, because that would probably be a vulnerability, but yeah, each has been, it feels to me, as somebody with delusional disorder, it's intentionally placed in order that it's not visible to the CCTV. So each of these 3, I thought there was only 3 when I wrote the status, each of these 3 clocks are behind the cameras, obscuring their image. So if you get punched in the face or worse in the corridor at 1 o'clock, they could just loop the footage, which I've had done to me by criminals with my own home CCTV on multiple occasions, with just a still image of nothing happening and nobody being in the corridor during that time the incident took place. So each, as I said, that's what it feels like to me. And bizarrely, although I'm certain it's not the motive, like it's a good mental hospital, but this potentially means that CCTV footage of incidents or even crimes can be looped in order that they could simply be denied with the timestamp of the footage simply doctored with a falsified time. You just change the clock time zone on your CCTV footage and then just edit over a bit of footage. It's very easy to, well, it's not very easy to, but it's someone who knows what they're doing. It's very simple to do. I reference a bit of lived experience here. So in January 2023, I was taken from Broadmead Costa to ward a PICU in London, and there was a man who he was sounding like he was sort of making verbal assertions that he sexually assaulted a member of my family, and so I was kind of sort of quite abusive towards him, and arguably provoked him into punching me in the head about several times. A member of staff split it up. I went to the ward office the next day, and wait a second. Yeah, I went to the ward office the next day. He said, I'd like to press charges. I don't think this guy, he's still like walking up to me in the dining room going, pussy, like that as he walked past me. And like, I really resented that. Yeah, like it says, I was personally physically assaulted by a service user. Signet Blackheath should be the place name, not Black and then Heath. It was January 2023 it was. It might have been February, but I was there until March in 2023. A member of staff intervened and the altercation was de-escalated. However, the following day, when I approached the ward office to complain about the incident and press charges with the police, I was simply gaslit and denied by every member of the team in the office that the incident had taken place, and they simply claimed it was a delusion and that I've been punched multiple times in the face by a service user was just false. I have spoken to the manager like yesterday about these cameras that seem to be like, I thought there was only like 3, but I've actually counted 5 now. So that on the first one I was like, okay, that's a bit dodgy. Second one I was like, okay, that's the second time there's a digital clock on the wall that is not in the view of the camera. And then the third one was like, okay, this is a pattern now. This isn't like coincidental positioning of clocks. This is a pattern, you know. And when it got to like 4 and 5, I was sort of thought I might make it into a video like I'm doing now. So you can just see the comments. I can't take photos outside my room, right? Otherwise I get my phone confiscated. So I can only talk about stuff that's, you know, going on inside my room. If you come and look at the building, there was loads of police here the other night apparently. If you visit me at the building, which I'd be happy to speak to anybody from law enforcement, I've got a series of quite serious crimes to report. You'll see that the entire ward, the structure of the ward is like to a person with mental illness and delusional disorder, which is what I have. Not that everything I say is vacuous in credibility, but yeah, it says that, well, yeah, it really plays on my mind. So I thought there was 3 clocks that the CCTV couldn't see. There's actually one in the servery, which is like a big room with tables and chairs in it. Sorry, I'll read it from the bottom. So believe it or not, there's also a clock in the ward office, which is just the same as all the others, obscured from view of the closed circuit television, meaning that it can be the footage of the office activity can be doctored and timestamps can be edited. It's so easy. You just literally get the CCTV and you just change the time zone to whatever, you know, set the clock to whatever you want, and then record a load of footage of an empty room with nobody in it, and get some footage of them walking out the room. I don't want to make this too credible because it's kind of, yeah. But the closed circuit television, you know, can be doctored and timestamps can be edited to absolve anybody of guilt or forensic timeline. And there's one in the kitchen dining area, which is obscured from the CCTV. I was just about to have lunch when I posted that. I'm wearing the same clothes that I'm wearing right now, beige t-shirt, blue jeans. Might as well put the camera on. Yeah, but what I was wearing this white hat, I was wearing this hemp sweater that I ordered the other day from Etsy, and a pair of Nike trainers, white Nike trainers like this, Infinity 2s, and a pair of jeans. So if you want to identify me, I know lunch was served just after 12. But yeah, there's 5 cameras now. I thought, whoa, steady Eddie. I thought there was only 3 in the corridors, and that made me suspicious enough. But just looking into the food servery, the one in the dining area is behind. They've got a CCTV camera kind of on the wall, like here, sticking out an inch, and then the flat panel digital clock sort of right behind it, so it can't see it. I thought 3 was dodgy. 4 was like, no way. And then I just went and asked one of the very professional and friendly members of staff here if I could have a look at the clock in the office, and lo and behold, there's a CCTV camera on one side, and the clock is on the wall right next to the CCTV camera, so there's no way you can verify footage. I've had assaults at Signet hospitals absolved and denied because they looped the CCTV before. They said there's nothing on camera. We checked the cameras, you didn't get assaulted. I didn't have any facial bruising, but yeah, I was wrong to provoke the guy. I'm sure he hadn't had sex with my sister, and there was nothing going on, you know, and I'm sure it's just a coincidence that all these 5 cameras are placed outside of the view of the CCTV. I don't think that Signet's like, you know, sort of structured its entire framework to facilitate abuse, or to obfuscate it rather. But like, as somebody with delusional disorder, I want to dispel the stigma around sharing the way that you can feel persecuted, you can feel paranoid, you can have delusional beliefs, you know. So yeah, massive respect to everybody who's trying to help people with their mental health. Institutional abuse can be really poor for mental wellness, and hopefully they'll put the clocks in the right place after the community meeting, which I'm just about to attend.